Welcome back to The Grind. In this video, we are going to talk about the spell details for the Celestial Rift Legendary Dragons. And I am very excited about this season, particularly because of the Mythic Dragons, but one of the legendaries this season looks dope, at least in the first wave. So first we're going to talk about Ethera, a legendary ice sorcerer. This dragon actually looks pretty cool, but I'm not sure that it's going to be a very powerful dragon, but you know, if it's a discount dragon, a lot of people will still get it, so potentially we'll have to make some use from it, or leave it at a lower tier so that you can have a dragon, a divine dragon, at a lower tier for things like temple raid events. Let's talk about this spell. So again, the legendary ice sorcerer. We have Glacial Spike, a white 1 rage spell that damages towers in a target area for 25 times the dragon's attack power. So that's basically a Death Gaze type spell. I think that's the same description as for Krelos's Spike spell. Now the next spell is Watcher's Shroud, a blue 2 rage spell. Dragon cloaks for 4 seconds, flies 50% faster, and can attack and cast spells without breaking the cloak. It has a 4-second duration, it said, and a 4-second cooldown. Now, this 2 rage blue spell means we have to get rid of the blue mage in order to use it. And I do like this. It's kind of similar actually to Krelos's speed spell. It doesn't speed quite as much and it doesn't deal damage, but you can still cast spells, which is very nice. It's always nice to be able to cloak and avoid damage, but still be able to cast spells and do your regular swipe attacks. Next is Warning Beacon, a white 1 rage spell to mark a tower, and if the tower is destroyed, it restores 30% health and 2 rage. So that's good. You net 1 positive rage, and 30% health is pretty substantial, and it only has a 2-second cooldown, so you can use this very frequently, but you're going to want to make sure you're placing it on the tower you're going to destroy next, and probably always want to use it before using Glacial Spike, because that's a pretty much instant tower kill, and with those 2 spells combined, you're going to net no change in your rage and be able to gain health each time you do it. And the passive for this is Frostbite. So normal attacks debuff towers and increase the damage that buildings take by 50%. So that's awesome. That allows your normal breath attacks to deal increased damage, and it allows your spike, your Glacial Spike, to deal even more damage than it otherwise would, allowing you to take out towers above your tier, but you might not be able to clear full bases above your tier, especially with defenders, because as soon as your Watcher's Shroud ends, or let's say you can't get through the blue mage in time, then you're going to be a sitting duck, because that is the only defensive spell that this dragon has. And if you get hit by an ice flak, you'll be disabled and probably be killed pretty quickly, because legendary dragons don't have as high health pools. However, if you're using this as a follow-up dragon, then having the access to Frostbite to increase the damage you can deal to towers, and then Glacial Spike, that'll allow you to probably take out towers 1 or 2 tiers above the dragon tier. So you can follow up with this dragon and take out a few towers that remain, especially with the cloak available. You can fire that off and cloak any damage, or cloak and fire it off with the protection of the cloak, since you can still cast spells during that. Also, having the mark spell, it might be a good lead dragon. Place some marks along the way. Take out some of the key towers before you die, and because it is a blue spell, and because you do have a 1-shot spell, you technically can fire Glacial Spike from the turn at the blue mage before the shield activates, then use Watcher's Shroud, and you will have access to Glacial Spike again before the cloak ends. So you could take out some key towers before you take any damage, unless you get hit by an ice flak. I suppose this cloak will be disabled by an ice flak, so that does limit things a little bit more. But there are some potential uses for this dragon, but I don't see it being a solo base clearing dragon with multiple defenders at tier, especially not above tier, but definitely some uses for weakening a base and setting up for follow-up dragon, or just as a follow-up dragon to clear out any towers that remain. I'll probably be leaving it though at a lower tier, just if I do get it. If it is the discount, then I definitely will be getting it. but just to use it on, you know, temple raid base type stuff. The next dragon we're going to talk about is Sekhet. And I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but this dragon is very exciting. So I actually really hope that this is the discount dragon, because it's a very unique and fun dragon to use, and I do see some significant potential with it, even though it's a warrior. Now, what makes this dragon so unique is it is a warrior with a Death Gaze spell. So this is pretty cool, and it is a white Death Gaze spell. So let's get into it. Claw of Carnix, a white 1 rage spell that damages towers in a target area for 100 times the dragon's attack power. And I think it's 100 times the dragon attack power because warriors typically have a little bit lower attack power and higher HP. But it has a 5-second cooldown. So basically this is a white Death Gaze spell every 5 seconds, and it costs 1 rage. Next is Seething Chains, a white 2 rage spell. So the dragon damages all nearby towers for 8% modified HP and freezes them for 3 seconds. Affected towers take 75% increased damage. So let's say you're attacking a base that you don't actually one-shot the towers with that Death Gaze spell. If you lead with this freeze spell, then you will more likely be able to one-shot the towers because they will be taking 75% increased damage plus the 100 times dragon attack. So you can deal a pretty big punch with that Death Gaze if you've already used Seething Chains, but it does cost 2 rage. That 3-second freeze is quite nice. It is quite a long duration, and the cooldown is only 2 seconds, which is very nice, but the high rage cost will limit its use. Next, we have Ring of Torment, a red spell. It costs 1 rage. The dragon damages nearby towers for 8% modified HP and restores 24% of its HP and becomes invincible for 3 seconds. Now, typically, red spells, the damage is what's disabled, or the effect that it has on the towers is not able to activate. However, you can still use red spells around red mages. So you will still restore health, and you should still become invincible for 3 seconds. Similar to Krelos's red spell, where you can take no damage while you are under that spell. It just doesn't deal damage to towers protected by a red mage. So you can still use this spell for protection regardless of the red mage, which is very important. It has a 3-second duration to become invincible, and it has a 7-second cooldown, which is fairly long, but it is quite nice, especially because we have a long freeze as well. And then Bloodlust is a blue 1 rage spell that gives the dragon 2 rage. So it costs 1, gives 2, you net a positive 1 rage, and if you destroy towers, you will heal for damage done to towers. So you're actually, I think, healing based on the damage that you deal to the tower, not necessarily per tower destroyed. And it has a 5-second duration, so you can do this whatever towers you destroy within that 5-second duration, you'll heal from, and after that, there will be a 2-second cooldown. So the cooldown is not very long, which is great, but because of the 5-second duration, that means you can only use this spell every 7 seconds unless it's disabled by a blue mage. So how I see using this dragon, you would come around the corner and use your white 1 rage Death Gaze spell to destroy a tower from the corner, and then use Seething Chains to freeze the initial super shots that are shot off. And after that, you will be dealing increased damage to those towers. Once that freeze ends, then you can use Ring of Torment to allow you 3 seconds of protection, as well as heal back any health you may have lost from the initial hits. And if you got the red mage down in time, that Ring of Torment activation will also deal some damage. But this dragon relies a lot on breath damage because aside from the Claw of Carnix, that Death Gaze spell, there is no real other big damaging spells for him to use. So you'll have to try to get towers down with with regular breath attack, which is a significant limitation for this dragon because with boosts that defenders can apply and with heals, it does get very difficult for warriors to destroy towers. But every 5 seconds, you can take out 1 or 2 towers with Claw of Carnix, and again, using Bloodlust to grant rage back, as well as give you health when you destroy towers, can be used fairly frequently as well. So this dragon looks like a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun flying it. It is a very different feel for a warrior having that frequent Death Gaze spell. And so I think that a lot of players will benefit from having this dragon, especially at lower tiers in particular. It's not going to do as great at max tier with multiple defenders, but having access to that Death Gaze is something that excites me, and so I would love for this to be the discount warrior or dragon, because I would prefer to get this one. But both of them have their positives and negatives, and so whichever one it is, there's uses for each of them. But I'm more excited myself to play with this warrior, just because it's a bit of a unique spin on warriors. So I do hope this video was helpful in breaking down the spell details of the dragons that are coming, and keep an eye out for my video on the mythic dragons. Let me know what your thoughts are on these previews of the dragons before we see them in game, and let me know what your thoughts are if you do get them in game once they are released. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.